Right, good evening all. Let's talk about Dido Harding and why she is such a bad choice for this new institute and why this new institute is effectively undermined before it even gets going. So this is going live at just past midnight for those of you that are up, but then it will be a permanent video. Right, so first of all, Dido Harding became the first CEO of TikTok back in TikTok back in 2010. And that year, she won the wooden spoon, according to the Daily Mail, for the worst customer service. Then she managed to pull off the same feat for 2011, as has been reported. And it was said at the time, that's amazing that someone should win it twice in a row. And it was remarkable because she even beat out the likes of Ryanair and HMRC to get it. Then she became a Tory peer in 2014. I can't work out why. She was appointed by David Cameron, who was her long-standing friend. Maybe it was because her father was a hereditary peer. I don't know, haven't found that out yet. But apparently she has never rebelled on anything for the Conservatives. So then in October 2015, there was the famous cyber attack on TalkTalk. Apparently, she was woefully naive about why that happened. She didn't even know if the customer's details had been encrypted or not. Nevertheless, despite losing 60 million for the company and about 100,000 customers, she was still paid 2.8 million that year. And she didn't step down. It was only until 2017 when she stepped down. And it was reported then in February 2017 that she would only work 2 months of the next financial year, but still receive her full salary of 550,000. So when she was paid 2.8 million a couple of years previously, that was still 550,000 as your basic salary, and then of course a healthy amount on top. And when she left, saying that she was a big believer in chief execs not staying forever, she walked away with, of course, shares worth many millions. She then got made this year, after all of those failures, she then got made this year head of the test and trace, and we all know that's been a complete flop. She's also very deeply integrated into the Jockey Club, which, as we know, was insistent on running the Cheltenham races at a very poorly advised time, and that too was a failure. Now, this brings us on to her husband, John Penrose, who was a Conservative MP. This raised a lot more questions. He is part of an organisation called the 1828 Club that has advocated scrapping the NHS funding as it is in preference for an insurance-based system. And also it has advocated scrapping Public Health England, which is ironic because that is what has happened, and his wife has got the job heading up the replacement. Corruption? No, never. Couldn't be, because John Penrose MP is actually officially the PM's anti-corruption champion. Which brings us on to the whole matter of the reorganisation itself, why it happened, and so forth and so on. As you may have seen in my previous video, it looked like this was a major blame play onto Public Health England. Those of us in the health community have been expecting this for a while. It's a bizarre thing for the Health Secretary to do because, of course, Public Health England is his team. He is their boss. These staff belong to him. And what makes it more galling is that this was announced in the Sunday Telegraph, and the Sunday Telegraph alone, that it was going to be scrapped. Public Health England was going to be scrapped. Not that it was going to be expanded with extra capacities from the test and trace system or with the joint biosecurity centre. Not that it was going to be merged with other entities, but scrapped. So can you imagine how that feels for the 5,000 employees of Public Health England that first find out in the paper that their whole body as a whole is going to be scrapped? What does that mean for their jobs? What does that mean for their self-respect after having worked their nuts off over the last few months? So then even in that article, Dido Harding was nominated, was tipped for the top job. And that is hardly an open and transparent process on a new institute that you're hoping is going to be a flagship for the country and a flagship around the world. And if you compare Dido Harding's CV with, for example, the director of the Robert Koch Institute, which apparently is what we're going to be modeling it on, like hers is with Talk and the Jockey Club, whereas his is a lifetime in public health and infectious diseases and microbiology. So it looks ridiculous, and the whole circumstance clearly undermines this new institute before it can even get going, before it can even get started. And furthermore, it didn't need to be like this. I mean, why was this announced in the Sunday Telegraph rather than to Parliament? And there was time to do it, because apparently, according to The Sun, Matt Hancock has been planning this for the last 3 months. So if they've been planning it, why not announce to Parliament that they're reviewing what has worked well and reviewing what has worked badly, and they want to do it in an open framework, getting in input from employees, other public health experts, and whoever can bring to bear good information on the system. But they didn't. This has all been done in private as a stitch up. And now you've got an entity which looks thoroughly incompetent and corrupt even before it starts up. So it's going to be very hard for the public to have any trust in that or any system that it provides, given that it's still getting mashed up with these private interests in a way that the public don't trust. So there we go. And the cherry on the top really is Dido Harding herself. Given her long-standing relationships within the Conservative Party, given her multiple failures, it seems clearly inappropriate that she should, even in an interim way, be set up for such a position. And I note Matt Hancock, because I watched his speech today, say that she would be interim as we engage in a sort of worldwide search. And you know, that's because they were flying a kite to see if they could get away with getting her in. But because of the backlash now, they're probably thinking about just making that interim and say that that was what was always planned. But the whole thing stinks, and it is such a shame, and it's such an insult to all of those hardworking people in Public Health England and across the NHS that they should be used as such footballs disrespectfully, whereas multimillionaires within the club always get the cream at the top, even though they are clearly repeat abject failures in such roles. And that is me done on the matter. Thank you.